Fresnel zones, radio horizons, and line of sight. This time on Hak5.
This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by Domain.com. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Hak5. My name is Shannon Morse.
And I'm Rob Dunphy. This is your weekly dose of Technolust.
Welcome, Rob. You know, I heard that we had a gift from a fan, so we might as well start it off with that.
Yeah, let's start with a gift for fans.
Other than the whiskey.
Other than the whiskey, yeah. But give me 2 seconds and I'll be back.
Hey!
It's a kitchen from the kitchen.
I was just in the kitchen. Dude, it's a Rob Dunphy, otherwise known on IRC as Archiver. Dude, big fan of yours, been for years. Thanks for coming down to the States.
Can I get your autograph, by the way?
Yeah, sure. We'll do it later.
Sweet. All right, cool.
So I'll leave you guys do your stuff. I'm going off stage.
Sweet. This is what makes the show worth doing.
I totally agree.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. We have a live audience. Yay!
We do. And we have drones today.
So
we
if
picked a good
anybody
day to come down
says-
to the studio.
If
Actually,
anyone
we're good
says that we don't like drones,
we do, in fact. Actually, let's clear some of these because some of them are just not going to serve our purposes for today. Definitely not the AR drone. That's just going to get us Wi-Fi hacked.
Not the crazy bulldog.
The Cujo quad, as it were.
Cujo quad.
No, the Iris I would love to because it does have open source firmware. Use this. However,
cool.
We're having some problems with it. And so
Yes.
we're working with 3D Robotics to get that sorted. In fact, this little guy here is the beginnings
It looks kind of like a Ninja Turtle.
Okay, I was going to go with a pineapple drone, but anyway, that's a little bit of foreshadowing. In fact, we may not be using that guy today either, depending on frequencies. It turns out he operates at 2.4 gigahertz, and so does this guy. And guess what we're putting in the atmosphere today?
A pineapple?
Pineapples in the sky.
Yes!
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Because
So
I
are we
figured-
not dumping it on top of a Parrot AR drone to destroy it this time?
No, that is not, in fact, what we are doing. Instead, we're going to be using it to seek out new life and new civilizations, and
cool.
mostly ADS-B beacons from
So
airplanes.
kind of like finding Cylons on
Kind
the
of
moon.
like, yes. Very similar, in fact. You see, what happens is the airplanes send out these beacons, and they're what's
got
called
it.
beacon, right? These ADS-B beacon
Yes.
tells them the ICAO designation number, you know, little numbers on
and
their
that's
tail.
how I was able to track them on my ADS-B Sharp
Right.
program.
It's like a DRADIS, but for software.
Yes.
Right. And so we are going to, in fact, network our drones, our Cylon-seeking drones here, and we're going to be able to see aircraft far away.
Ooh, how far would you say?
Well, it's what brings us to the topic of today's conversation as we talk about the horizon and radio horizons and distance and line of sight.
Is there some
and
crazy
Fresnel
geometry
zones.
this time?
There might be a little bit of geometry.
Yay, math.
Yeah, whoa. But there's math with drones involved, and we're going to a mountaintop.
Okay, as long as there are drones. Ooh, mountaintops?
Yes.
Ooh, fun
hey,
stuff.
I found the pens. We can actually start the segment proper. Here we go. So, as we've been talking about in this radio series, we've been talking about
Hold
our
on.
EM
Wait,
waves.
You said start the...
Oh.
Okay, now I can start the segment proper.
All right. I mean, if you insist. So why don't you work on that while I work on this?
It's like 9 a.m.
Doesn't matter. Which means it's +8 in Ireland.
Right.
So anyway, as we've been talking about on this series, we've been talking about electromagnetic waves, or in our case now we're really just talking about our radio signals. And as they travel, they're impacted by so many different things. We've been talking about, atmospheric interference, mainly absorption of like the air molecules. We've got reflection of different objects. We've got diffraction and refraction, and I'm not going to get into all the maths of those. But essentially, if I want to talk to you and there's something in between us, it's really going to kind of get in the way.
Right.
And so what we'll be talking about today is the line of sight propagation. So as an example here we go. I'll just pull this off my hacker bag. Oh.
You're welcome. I just did a little bit.
Okay, no, that's great. It's great.
You don't need more
we can
than that.
factor this in,
Okay.
and that's not a math joke. So here we go.
All right.
It's lawn chair.
Lawn chairs.
Lawn chairs. Okay. So the thing about this is, if I wanted to test your blood alcohol content, or otherwise just annoy you for being drunk on the set, and for those that can't tell,
why X.
I don't know how well this is
S.
going to come out on the show, but I am
kidding.
pointing a flashlight at Shannon. You could probably see on her cam there. And so as you can see, we have great line of sight here. But we're going to have a problem here if there's... that was no good. See, as the whiskey gets in the way, as it tends
Shannon
to
can
do,
see again.
we don't have proper line of sight. And so what we're going to have to do in this case is actually, if I want to reach Shannon, is I'm going to have to raise my flashlight, or
so you can see over
in
the
our
mountaintop.
example, it's going to be an antenna. So what we're going to do is go to the mountaintop.
Sweet.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes
And then
sense.
the drones are involved because of interesting regulations or lack thereof. But we will be very responsible, and it will be fun. And I'm not going to drink the rest of the whiskey in this particular instance because we will be flying a little later. Okay.
You will, not
Yes,
me.
I will. Now, I say that there's that line of sight thing, but it's actually not necessarily the case when we talk about radio waves. Turns out anything below about 2 megahertz actually is what we consider a ground wave. And really anything between 1 and 30 megahertz are what we could kind of consider sky waves, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, it sounds all steampunk and stuff. And essentially what we're talking about are waves that are reflected by the upper ionosphere. So somewhere between 85 and 600 kilometers, which is pretty high up there when you kind of consider, to put that in perspective, that the International Space Station lives between 330 and 430 kilometers altitude.
True.
So it's really awesome that we have an ionosphere. We were talking about this earlier about how, like, wouldn't everything be easier if there wasn't an atmosphere and this was just a barren rock?
Yes.
Turns out, not the case if we're using those high frequencies that can just kind of bounce
yes.
around. And then,
we got some good feedback about that as well.
right. So they're not limited to the line of sight. They can actually bounce around the atmosphere, which is how you can get halfway around the world with them, which is really cool. But we're not doing that today. We're actually talking about higher frequencies. We're talking about, well, in our case, when we're doing ADS-B and we're just trying to find airplanes in the sky, we're talking about a higher frequency, and any obstacle is going to block those, and it's going to be limited by our radio horizon. We're talking about 1090 megahertz here, and so our radio horizon is really the furthest point of propagation. Now, it's really also going to depend on the transmission power and also the antennas used, because, for example, around 100 megahertz is where we get FM radio. And that does a decent job of actually getting through trees and buildings. And then there's other, we've got cellular, we've got our 900 megahertz GSM stuff, and that actually takes advantage of a lot of different, I'm going to throw out some terms, multipath, that's going to actually allow you to get cell service, within, the canyon of a city with all the buildings and everything. And anyway, not to get too much into a tangent, but this is what is going to lead us to a really fun, interesting thing called the Fresnel zone.
Oh.
Yes. So
Fresnel zone?
The Fresnel.
Fresnel.
I think he's French. I'm not really sure. So, Shannon, this is your antenna right here.
Okay. It's a great looking antenna.
Thank you. Yep. And then here's my antenna right here. And we're like, oh, hey, check this out. We've got a really wonderful stream of ants in between us, but it's actually the line of sight. And so our two antennas can see each other.
Okay.
But, oh no, look, wait, there's like a really poorly drawn mountain in between us.
Oh no!
But we can still see, right?
Right,
We've still
because
got,
we're tall enough.
right. But the thing about this Fresnel zone is it's this kind of elliptical shape that is in between our two antennas that, depending on the frequency, like, if we're using a low frequency, it's going to be pretty wide. And if we're using a high frequency, it's going to be pretty narrow. But essentially, it's going to be all like a football.
Oh. But wait, a part of it is going through the mountain.
Yeah, a part of it is, and that is kind of a bummer. And so what this is actually going to do is it's going to degrade our link quality. We would ideally like less than 20% of this Fresnel zone to be obstructed.
Okay.
In this case, we could have as much as 40%. And what will happen is a radio wave will hit this and bounce, right? And math is involved, and there is a bunch of refraction and reflection and other stuff like that. But essentially, it bounces, and it's no good, and it ends up looking like the Verizon logo. I don't know how that ended up happening, but it's like, oh no, these are no good. And what happens is they kind of scatter around, and that same signal, right, it's going to get to the source, but it's going to get at a later time because it spent more time going through the air and stuff. And that is an example of a multiple path or a multipath, where our signal, sure, it went this way straight across, but it also kind of went this way, and it also kind of went that way, and it's going to bounce off stuff. And it's not even just vertically too. Like if we have a link between us, between two buildings, and there's a building off to the side.
There's also a Fresnel zone going to the sides as well.
It's like this big donut-shaped.
It's
Where
a
are my
big football.
balloons? I need my balloons. So in this case, it's actually going to cause some obstructions. And this is in fact why, in the case of what we're trying to demonstrate today, by raising our antenna, see, we wouldn't have this problem if, my antenna, here's Darren's antenna. Well, Shannon's antenna, you could just raise yours up a little bit, and then suddenly your Fresnel zone would be totally different. Our line would be across here, and whoops.
Oh, okay.
Your Fresnel zone would be something like that, and we would have a better chance of actually hearing each other
Much
pretty
less
well.
is obstructed from the mountain.
Yes.
Everything gets there almost at the same time.
Yes, so we have to take into account obstructions like that, and different, like I said, different frequencies are going to be impacted differently by, things like trees and buildings.
Right.
And we also have to
Birds.
take into account the horizon, because it turns out the Earth is not, in fact, flat.
Wait, say that again?
I know. As much as Google Maps would show you otherwise, it's more kind of spherical-ish.
Would that explain why whenever I look into the ocean, it's kind of curved at the end, and you can only see so far? It looks like a boat's falling off.
Yes, in fact.
And it goes far.
In fact, speaking of the ocean, how tall are you?
That's crazy. I am 7 feet tall.
How tall are you really?
5'5".
Well, then let's go to the beach for an experiment.
Oh boy.
As you guys know, there are only 10 types of people on the planet: those who can't figure out binary, and those who know that Domain.com's quick domain discovery system and easy checkout process lets them have a website up and running in no time. And I've told you guys time and time again, I love Domain.com, and it's because they are affordable, they're reliable, they're easy to use, and they're an awesome place to do business. Just tweet at them at Domain.com and you'll see why. The guys over at Domain.com, they're also huge fans of Hak5. They want to hook you up, so get this. If you use the coupon code HAK5 at checkout, you're going to get an extra 15% off. When you think domain names, think Domain.com.
We're back, and it's time for the trivia question of the week. Now, the last trivia question that we had was, what effect did the turbo button have on early personal computers? And the answer was, surprisingly, that it slowed the processor. It's kind of weird, but I'm glad some of you guys got it right. Now, this week's trivia question is, who coined the term pyrokinesis? That's a pretty good one. I know the answer myself, and if you do, you can answer it over at hak5.org/trivia for your chance to win some awesome Hak5 swag. Good luck.
Yay, it's the beach. Ooh, look at this. Yes. What is it?
Here's mine.
I don't have any coins.
Where's a blue box when you need one?
I know, right? What is that? Let's send it to 2600. We're gonna have to forge the river before we die of dysentery.
Terry? That's a girl's name. You have...
Of course. Hello.
I'm pointing it the wrong way.
Hello.
This way. There you go.
Oh, wow.
All right. And now to measure the snubs. Nope, stand
sorry.
still. You're actually just at about 5 feet, a little bit over. Anyway, close enough for government work.
I can see my house.
You don't even live in that direction. But can you see the base of the Golden Gate?
Oh yeah.
There you go. And so the old adage goes that a man standing on a beach can see 3 miles. And it may in fact be why there is the notion of like territorial waters and 3 miles out, because that's what you can see when you're average man standing.
Dexter goes farther than 3 miles whenever he drops his bodies.
not familiar with this friend of yours. I don't really need to know any more than that. It is actually a case that the old sailing ships, they would have the crow's nest and it would be like up really high. And the idea is that, you know,
see farther.
you could see, yeah, if you're like, I forget what it is. If you're at like 25 feet, you can see 14 miles. There's an equation.
All right.
Actually.
And you have a stick.
And I have a stick.
Oh boy.
So let's make some maths.
Okay. Whoa.
All right, let's get a better stick. So this is the Earth.
All right. It's round.
Yes, Earth round.
Earth round.
And if you are standing here, you can't really see very far. So what you want to do is you want to get yourself up a little bit, right? So
Okay.
get yourself a nice tall ladder.
That's why we got some tall antennas.
Yes, boom. So get our antenna up a little higher, and this would be H for our height.
Height.
And then check this out. We can see further, D for distance. And there's an equation, in fact, that allows us to figure out, because the Earth is in fact round, it allows us to approximate in perfect conditions what that may possibly be. And it would look like H would be, it's actually the square root of H, and we multiply that by 4.124, and that will get us our distance.
Ah.
And this is in the case of our radio horizon.
Okay.
And then we can kind of figure out how tall we need to make our antenna. And what's beautiful about this is, in this case, you're just seeing to the end of the horizon.
Right.
But you could do the same thing over here with H, right?
So you'd have a second distance.
And now, essentially what we have is we cross the horizon and we can essentially multiply whatever this distance is times 2 for our total distance between our 2 points.
Ah, that's so cool.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let's fly drones.
Oh, yes. My favorite part. I dare you to jump in the polluted water.
No. So as you can see, the higher we get, the further our horizon distance is.
The further we can see.
Yay!
Yay.
And it's very similar in terms of radio waves, just like your actual line of sight as you as a human with your eyes and perception of light and
Yes.
other fun energy is concerned. And so what we're basically going to do is say, well, if we can get higher, then we can see further. I mean, that's pretty much all we're talking about here. So let's get higher. In fact, Mount Diablo is very near
Shouldn't
to
say
here.
that when we're living in the Bay Area of California, where
Oh, right.
certain
Yeah.
drug
okay.
use is legal.
Is it? I don't even know. So
Medical.
Mount Diablo is at
I
about
wouldn't know.
3,848 feet or so, says Google. So thank you, Google, for doing the maths for us. That comes out to about 1,172 meters. So its radio horizon is actually going to be somewhere around 88 miles, right? Not per hour, because that's not, it has nothing to do with this. But it does have something to do with the speed of light, but that's a different conversation. 141 kilometers is, in fact, the radio horizon if we are standing on the top of Mount Diablo. Here's what's also really cool. So here's us, here's Mount Diablo, right? And we're standing right here. I'm really excited. I'm also much bigger than the radio, our mountain here, as you can see. And there's also an airplane. Here's my airplane. I'm gonna give it some wings, and it's got like a tail.
Okay, so we have a hot dog with
we got some guns, and they're all like, right? So it's trying to shoot at, but whatever. Anyway, so there's my ADS-B beaconing airplane, right? And it is at an altitude of, let's just say, 9,000 meters, right? No, none over. Sorry, not over 9,000, but 9,000 meters, which in fact is around 29,900 feet. Or, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at a cruising altitude of 30,000 feet, but I lied because we're actually at 9,000 meters, because that's just for our example. And it is going to, in fact, have a radio horizon of 432 miles.
Wow.
That's pretty freaking cool. That's a long way off. That's 391
awesome.
kilometers for for the metric speaking in the audience. And that's going to mean that between us on the top of the mountain and that airplane, we're going to have a total line of sight distance of 331 miles, because we add those two together, and that gives us 532 kilometers if you're doing the math at home for the metrically involved. And that means we're going to see airplanes potentially 331 feet away.
Or miles, right?
Sorry, miles. Yes, we will see them 330 feet away, and then we will know we should probably duck. Or it might be a little too late. Yes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Here's where it also gets kind of fun, in that the AMA has these recommended guidelines for there's these model aircraft folks, and they've come up with these recommended guidelines for model aircraft. Or
I've heard of this. If it's like a certain size, you can't fly it any higher than a certain amount or something like that.
Actually, no. Until September 30th of 2015, there are no such crazy regulations for non-commercial use, which we are demonstrating today, or even that is subject to some controversy at the moment. And essentially, going by the guidelines, we are recommended to stay under an altitude of 400 feet. So again, we talked about how our mountain here is at 3,800 feet. So that's 3,800, right? Well, the beauty about this recommended 400-foot altitude is it's actually not above sea level. It is AGL. Above
ground level.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for real. No, above ground level. So 3,800 feet, ... Up here, got a little drone.
I see what you did there.
There's that's my head crab, which is also a drone carrying a pineapple, carrying a software-defined radio, carrying this awesome antenna that we made and took out of its case because it's going to have to be super light. I mean, I think we have like a maximum payload capacity of 300 grams for this experiment. Essentially, we're going to be able to take this 3,800 and turn it to 4,200, which is kind of fantastic because it has the numbers 42 in it.
That's awesome.
Yes. Very excited about this.
I can tell.
Yes.
Darren's freaking out.
Yes. So it's going to, in fact, increase our radio horizon. It is. It's just going to, I mean, it's math. It's going to do it.
It makes sense.
Yes.
So let's do it.
In fact, hang on, real quick. If we could keep going even just a little bit higher, imagine a squiggly here with like two lines through it to represent that we're actually going a little bit higher. There is this other magical line around the Earth, and it is called the Kármán line, which I'm pronouncing incorrectly.
Carmen?
Yes.
Like Carmen Sandiego?
Carmen, but it's got some ticks, and I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. But this Kármán line, right?
Kármán.
Yes, it is at 100 kilometers, or 62 miles. And it is, depending on who you ask, in fact, the border between Earth as we know it and space.
Oh.
It's going to be very fun.
That place.
We are not going to space, unfortunately. However, some fine folks are already in space, and they hang out in this place called LEO, which has nothing to do with the TWIT network. And it, in fact, stands for Low Earth Orbit. And it is these, here's my really bad drawing of a satellite.
Oh, wow, that's terrible.
Whatever, that's an awesome satellite. Yes. And so this low Earth orbiting satellite hangs out at around 160 kilometers. So its radio horizon is, in fact, about 1,000 miles. How freaking cool is... Why is it on fire? There's no fire in space, Shannon.
It's not, it just has a tail like a phoenix.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, awesome.
Feathers.
Yes. There were no lambdas here, so we will come back to this later. But that is the idea. The higher you get, the further you can see, and that's why we have satellites, which are awesome. Ooh, and soon to be, what are they called? Atmospheric satellites. Very, very, very thin and light.
Oh, those are called aliens.
That hang out around 65,000 feet.
Yeah, that's an alien.
I forget the name of the company. There's a new company that has these really freaking sweet drones
Cylons.
that are covered in solar panels, right? And then they can hang out at 65,000 feet, right? And at that point, they can see like a ton of Earth, right, below them. And they can see
up close and personal.
They can see to other of these autonomous high-flying drones full of solar panels that can hang out in the sky for like up to 5 months straight, carrying payloads of like 50 pounds to 250 pounds. Imagine how much Wi-Fi equipment that is.
That's
and
kind of creepy.
These guys are really exciting because like they can see so much and they're so high. And
See into your bedroom.
Yes, and the FAA does not regulate airspace over 60,000 feet.
Yay.
So
Who's
you learn something
building those?
new every day. A company that Facebook either just did or almost did acquire. So that is
That's all we need.
60,000 feet. This is 65,000 feet. This is the big FU FAA space where it's like, ha ha, I'm over your country and you can't do anything about it unless my name is Gary Powers and you shoot me down. I'm divulging into a lot of different stuff. I'm on a
going into a
tangent, in
tangent.
fact. Math jokes! Okay, we're done.
Oh, Lord.
Let's go fly.
Okay.
Well, that just about wraps up this week's episode of Hak5. I know we cut it kind of on the beef here because next week we're going to pick it up with some awesome drone action going up to about 4,200 feet above sea level. Should be really fun, and we've got a whole bunch of awesome drone stuff coming in the future. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and of course comment below or send feedback at hak5.org. We do in fact read all of those, and we've been garnering some amazing stuff. Thank you for all the hams that have pointed out some really nifty stuff. I can't wait to kind of do a quick follow-up with a lot of the stuff that we've been learning. And anyway, otherwise, shop.hak5.org is not a place you can go, but hakshop.com, HAKshop.com is one where you can support us directly if you so desire, as well as hak5.org/follow to find other places to find us on social media. And then you'll be able to find out cool stuff about, like, for example, the Bay Area Hacker Brunch that we had on Sunday the 6th, which was amazing, and I hope to see you all out at the next. So stay tuned for details on that. And until next week, I'm Darren Kitchen. Trust your technolust. That's what we're going to do on the beach.
All right.
Okay, so let's go do that.
Okay.
If we haven't already. Yes.
Yay, sandcastles!